Hi friends, welcome to WebChamp. In this video, I'm going to discuss SQL database in Microsoft Fabric. So, if you are familiar with the Azure SQL database or SQL Server, the same kind of database you can create in the Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so if you go to the Fabric workspace, so here you can identify by looking at this icon. So this is a Fabric enabled workspace. Inside this, if you go to the new item and inside the data storage, you can see what kind of different types of storages we have. So here they have added SQL database, and the way you can write the queries on Azure SQL database and on the SQL server, similarly you can use this database also. You can write the queries, you can perform the operations, and even you can use this database in the application development. So lots of things you can do, obviously, but what is the benefit of this? We will discuss in this. Okay. So SQL database in Fabric is home for OLTP, meaning online transactional processing uh, workloads, and it is easy to configure and manage. So how you can create a database? So you can go to the new item. Here you can select the SQL database, and it will ask for the name of the database. So let me say webchamp db, right? So this is what my database name. Right, so it will create a database in the workspace for me. Then set up for analytics by automatically replicating getting the data into the one lake near real time. Then integrated with the development frameworks and analytics. So Fabric tools you can use, I mean, that is by default integrated, so you don't need to do lots of things or lots of configuration to make the connection and all. Everything will be integrated, you just have to use this. Then based on the underlying technology of mirroring in database, right? So if you if you have a Azure SQL database, so you can create a copy of that is nothing but mirroring, and the same kind of things are used here. So this is based on that technology, queried in all the same way as Azure SQL database. As I said, you can query the data the way you can use Azure SQL database, and even here a web based editor is given to query the data in Fabric portal. Then why use SQL database in Fabric? So let's understand this. When you create a database in Fabric, it creates three items for you in workspace. So first SQL analytics endpoint, then default semantic model. So if you go here, okay, it is yet to create the analytics endpoint. Okay, it got created. Right. So this is default semantic model. This is SQL database and SQL analytics endpoints. All these things are created. So data in your SQL database is automatically replicated up into the one lake and converted to Parquet file. So meaning whatever the data you stored in the Fabric lake house, warehouse, everything will be stored in the form of Parquet files. So Parquet files are optimized files to store the data, and it compresses the data. So data size can be smaller. Right, and that is in analytics ready format. So this enables downstream scenario like data engineering, data science, and more. So this database you can use with the applications like data engineering or data science. So in addition to the Fabric SQL database query editor, there is a broad ecosystem of tooling, including SQL Server Management Studio. The way you can create a queries or .sql files. Similarly, you can simply create the new query and start writing the SQL code. Then extension of MS SQL that is available with the Visual Studio Code, and even GitHub Copilot is available. But for that, you to use the Copilot, you need a paid version. Why SQL database? So first of all, sharing. Then let's see how to share the database first. So this is what the database I have created. In front of the database name, there is option to share. If you click on this, you just have to enter the email address of the person who has many. Obviously, that is from your organization, and then what kind of permissions you would like to give him. Then read all the data using SQL database, read all the data using SQL Analytics endpoint, read all the data using Apache Spark, build a report on the default data set, meaning default a semantic model, right? And then notify recipient by email. If you want to add a message, you can add, and then you can say grant. Okay, to define additional database permissions, use grant and deny statement in transact SQL. So the permissions can be managed from the .sql file also by writing the SQL commands. Okay, so in Power BI we have only row level security, but here with the database, so we can achieve the object level security also. So sharing enables ease of access control and management. Okay, then the row level security and object level security both comes in picture, and more make sure you can control the access to the sensitive information of the database. Sharing also enables secure and democratized decision making across your organization. Okay, so these are the just points, but here you can see that by sharing SQL database, you can grant other users a group of users, meaning you can grant access to the users or group of users to database without giving access to the workspace and rest of the item, meaning this workspace can contain the reports and lake houses and many items would be there, right? So you can give the access. If you share the database from here, they will get the access to only this database, not to the workspace. When someone share the database, they also grant access to the SQL analytics endpoint and associated default semantic model. So this is default. If you share the analytics endpoint and default model will be shared. Access to that items will be shared. Access the sharing dialog with the share button, the one which I saw sometime before. And shared database can be found through the, many people can found inside the shared with me section or one lake data hub, right? So if people go to the one lake, so here they will be able to find, and they may see option shared with me somewhere. Okay, so in one lake you can find, inside of one lake we may have an option, maybe inside of my items. There is an option to view the items that are shared with you in your organization by someone. Okay, fine. Let's come to the our workspace. Then connection. Since the Power BI and the analytics tools are part of Microsoft Fabric. So by simply using Microsoft Entra authentication, you will be able to make the connection. Okay. Then how to connect? Okay. Let me pick the Power BI. Okay. So just consider that by using this Power BI tool, I'm going to make the connection with that database. Right. So let's say this is blank report, no issues. But before that, we need some data or at least a single table. Okay. So schema, you if you go so inside a WebChamDB, there is a DBO schema. If you want to create new schema, I think you can create new schema by writing the command. And inside the table, there is nothing. So the DBO is the database object. So this is default schema. So we will use that. But yes, we need at least single table. So what I will do, I will create this table. Okay, this is what the table name. So let me say student, and I can use the space since square brackets are there. Name and email, like this. Okay. So if I run this, so this will create a table. So now if I go to tables, you can see here the tables. I'm not going to insert any data here, but I can make the connection with this table. Okay. So to get the connection string for this database, you go to the setting icon, just click on this setting icon here, and then go to the connection string. So don't pick everything. Okay, wherever it asks for the connection string, you can use the connection string. Otherwise, just pick the value of data source as a server. And let's say, so this is my SQL server. I will set this. Then database name is like WebChamDB, right? Then I'm going to import. I'm not going to use the connectivity mode as a direct query. Then let me say select star from and the database. Okay, you can come here and let me say dbo dot student. Okay, let's run this. If this database name doesn't work, okay, so we encounter, okay, why Microsoft SQL cannot open, login failed. Okay, let's say edit, and let me go to the connection string once again, and this is the database name you should pass, right? And let me run this. Okay, so now you can see that uh, earlier it had given the error because of this database name. I passed only the name, but we need to pass the complete value of initial catalog. Okay. Then you will be able to see here we don't have any data in this table, that's why it is showing blank. But yes, so you are able to make the connection. Sometime what it will does, it will ask you to select the Microsoft account. In that case, you can go and select the Microsoft account. Here this time it doesn't ask, maybe because of I already logged in with the same account in the Power BI. So that could be the reason, possibly. Right. So connection, we saw how we can make the connection. Similarly, you can use the, I mean, this type of connection you can use in every other applications. Then cross database queries. So here we have created a one database, WebChamp DB, right? So you can have multiple database. You can create the multiple databases, and then if the both the or two different databases has the common values, so you can perform the joins between. So far, even what I saw is we can perform the joins between two tables of the database. But here you can perform the joins between two different databases. This is what the cross database queries. Joining data from the other SQL databases, mirror the databases, warehouses, or SQL analytics endpoint in the single transact query. This is what is possible in the Fabric. So all this is currently possible with the queries on the SQL analytics endpoint of the SQL database and Lakehouse. Okay. Then this database can be used in the data engineering to create and manage your data as a Spark using the SQL database in Fabric. Then design the pipeline to copy the data into the your SQL database. So you can do that also. Use the Spark job definition to submit the batch or stream to Spark cluster. Even you can use the notebook to write the code for the data preparation and transformations. All these things are possible with the SQL database. Then you can use this SQL database for the data science purpose also. So in Microsoft Fabric, you can do the end-to-end data science workflows you can create for the purpose of data enrichment and business insights. Obviously, the purpose of data science is this. Then inside this, okay, so meaning all the way of data exploration, preparation, cleaning to experiment, data modeling, and model scoring, then serving predictive insights to BI reports. Everything you can perform. Meaning you can use this SQL database for all those things. Then database portability and deployment with the SQL packages. So you can move the database to Azure or Azure to Fabric. So this is what the possible very easily. Then you can integrate this with Fabric source control. So continuous integration and continuous development CI/CD pipelines you can use with this SQL database. Even you can create the GraphQL API from the Fabric portal. So you can use the Fabric portal to easily create GraphQL API for your SQL database. So if you go here, there is an option to create the GraphQL APIs. So if you want to access this database from the any other programming language, so you will be able to use this. Even if you want to open this database in Visual Studio Code or SQL Server Management Studio, so here you can see that this is what the server name, this is what the database name, and copy these strings and use them to connect externally. Okay, so we can do that also, meaning you will be able to access this database from the SSMS also. So I already have, you can try. Again, it will populate to use the Microsoft authentication, enter authentication, and you are supposed to select your Microsoft account to make the connection. Then capacity management, you can use the Microsoft Fabric Capacity Metrics app to monitor the SQL database usage and consumption in non-trial Fabric capacities. Okay, so this is possible in the paid version only. Then mirroring for Azure SQL database, so exact copy you can create, right? And this is just to steps to create the go to workspace, then create new Fabric item, select the SQL database, enter name of the database, load the data. So you can load the data. Okay, so how to load the data into the database? So here you have a get data option, so you can use the data flow. Data flow generation 2 is nothing but Power Query editor in Power BI. So this is what the data flow gen 2 version. This is based on the cloud, meaning online. This is otherwise we will say this will be exact Power Query editor. The new data pipeline you can create to load the data into your database. And obviously, what we can do, we can start querying the data. So we have created a one query. If you want to rename this query, you can rename the query. You can, if you want to duplicate the query, you can create the duplicate query. And if you want to delete it, you will be able to delete it. Right. And two things, SQL analytics endpoint will be automatically created. By using that, you will be able to perform. Okay, so define query and updated data is possible with the SQL database. SQL analytics endpoint is used to query the data for analysis purpose. Right. So this is all about the creating SQL database in Microsoft Fabric. I hope you like the content of this video. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a nice day.